Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and please take your seats as early as possible so that we can begin the second part of our program. And our second panel today is focused on racial discrimination issues and advocacy. And I have to say, if there's any one topic that provides unity and solidarity between all Asian Americans and all communities of color, I have to say that discrimination is the example of the common experience that all of our communities share in this country and others throughout the world. And I'm very pleased to introduce to you the panel that we have selected today to make presentations regarding this issue. I want to just add, before doing so, we originally had scheduled members of the Muslim Educational Trust from Portland, Oregon, who's been an active member of AAUC for many years now, and they were intending to bring a delegation of 10 students along with about 3 or 4 other people. Unfortunately, we got a call Monday night advising us that the Muslim Educational Trust School had a COVID outbreak. And yes, and so numerous people, students acquired COVID along with some of the presenters, which included Jawaria and also Wajdi Saeed. So I'm subbing in place of their absence, and please indulge me with any hiccups that I might commit. But that aside, I'm going to introduce the 3 panelists that are going to present today. I'm just going to introduce them by name and organization, and then Raj, go to you first, and then each of you, when you have your turn to speak, and advise just generally of your history and your activities. So first, I'm going to introduce to you Raj Rao, the Hindu American Federation representative that's here today. Second, I have Hai Pei Shu, president of the United Chinese American Association, who is, by the way, a registered lobbyist since the late 90s, and so he really understands the idea of advocacy as far as Congress is concerned, and the issue generally. And then finally, we have Wei Pham from Minnesota, who is a Vietnamese social services advocate in Minnesota, and we're pleased to have all 3 of you here. And we're going to start off by having Raj begin the program. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for having me. My name is Raj Rao. I'm a managing director at the Hindu American Foundation, headquartered right here. And this is a very important topic, and I wanted to cover quickly 2 key themes. And the first one is really the importance of unity. Asia is a very large place, and even South Asia itself is a very diverse region, multiple countries, and it's kind of in this eternal warring states period. And these tensions can often be extended over here, especially as our populations grow. Whether it's South Asians in particular, Indian Americans in particular, or the broader Asian community. And one of the things that we see in our work a lot is that with these intergroup tensions can sometimes rise up and they can spill out. And the danger with that is that not everyone else is going to assume that you're one of the good ones, and you really don't want to encourage types of treatment, whether from a political, legislative perspective or even a social perspective. You don't want to start bringing tensions against other groups that could be turned right back onto you. And so, for example, I believe there is HR 3697, which is concerning property rights discrimination affecting Chinese people. And so many Indian Americans or people from other countries that might have tensions with China, back in Asia, they might be tempted to say, well, this is a good thing. Why can't we do this? But then you have to remember, why do you want to pass a law that could create the groundwork that in the future, what happens if India and the US have a bad relationship? Sure, right now they say they're friends. Tomorrow, would you have been creating the groundwork for your own marginalization? And so that is something that we really need to look out for. And then the second thing I wanted to quickly touch on is the importance of owning our own story. One of the things that we deal with a lot at HAF is a lot of misinformation, a lot of people who might be, quote, educated about India or Hinduism, but in fact they're actually primed to see us as not fully capable of integrating into the milieu of American society, as being eternally different and being problematic. And that is something that we have to fight every single day, not only socially, with ordinary people, but also with educators, with academics, people on the left, people on the right, people in government, people in law enforcement, all across the board. And so the importance of teaching Asian American stories and teaching them from our own perspective, telling our own stories, on our own terms, and really kind of introducing ourselves to the rest of society. And that is one of the most important, crucial steps to creating a more tolerant and just society. And so I'm very happy to be joining other distinguished panelists who are also pursuing this goal. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hui Pham, and I'm the Executive Director for Vietnamese Social Services in Minnesota. Before joining the Vietnamese Social Services in Minnesota, I have worked in corporations like AT&T, IBM for many years, and then I also have opportunity to work international for doing humanity work in Thailand and Vietnam. And I have grown up and experienced. I'm sure we all come from different backgrounds, different. How many of you have kind of like saying that I have never been facing with racial discrimination? Just raise your hand if you have not. So I think as I sitting here as a panelist, what topic are we going to talk about? I think all of us, like I think that you was mentioned, that share the story, advocate racial discrimination, racial disparity. I mean, all of those. Maybe we wish that we didn't learn those words. And how we're gonna move process, I think that's the topic. I know that we have a lot of time, but it's gonna be a long commitment. It's gonna take actions. I remember growing up in Vietnam, and I don't know how my grandma is doing it, but every time I have an exam, I would say, Grandma, can you please wake me up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m.? We don't have any watch. We don't have anything. But she's always know exact time to say, wake up. We have some, you have something to do today. And, when I get frustrated with facing what we call racial discrimination, I remember her word. Then my father, who's also one of the founder of Vietnamese Social Services, he leaned our home to borrow a loan to build a Vietnam Center back in 1987. And it was just, a small agency. Then all the community member put it in, and we have built a community. And I think that when growing up, I would never think that coming to the US, we would have a lot of what we call social services issues or racial discrimination. But now, they refer to me as elders, and we're still facing the issues. So don't give up the hope. I think it's a long commitment, but this is what it's all about. The word unity will prevent and will, we have a lot of work to do, but thank you, and I'm going to share it.
Well, glad to share this space again. I really want to thank Raj, my friend, to my right, for what you just said. Many of you may have observed or not, I don't know, but I just want to tell you that we're talking about the unity of Asian Americans. And you probably have heard that there's no Asian in Asia, right? So we never use the word to describe ourselves as Asian in Asia. But what that means is in this country, finally, all different Asians, we can come together as Asians. I'll give you a quick example. Chinese and Japanese are mortal enemies over there, right? But we are the two best cooperating community in this country. We seem to have forgot overnight whatever we fought over there viciously for many, many decades. I assume there may be something like that between Indian and Pakistani community too. So what the hell is we are still fighting over all those little things. So there is hope. There is hope. Finally, we have a chance to build Asians and build unity here. Now, and for those about the immigration bill, if you, I'd like to help on the immigration bill. If you come to me or UCA, we are here based in Washington, D.C. I have a few years lobbying the Congress, and so we can all work together for those bills that close and to our heart. Very quickly, I want to say this right front. I want to say that's very blunt and straightforward, that Chinese American community need your help, need other Asian American help to help us fight back the racism, discrimination, bias, and yes, neo-McCarthyism that Chinese community is suffering from right now. Let me ask you quick questions. How many of you have heard of the Florida bill that target primarily Chinese in terms of land bill and ownership? Most of you have. My Orlando friend is nodding his head. But how many of you have also heard a higher education bill passed in Florida at the same time within a month that restrict Chinese graduate students from going to public university in Orlando? Now, the number is dropping down to a few. And how many of you have heard the third bill that passed also in about the same session, that is to mandate public schools in Florida from kindergarten on to educate Floridian kids how evil communism and the CCP is? Anybody knows that? Two of them, or three. So that's the case, that even for those of us who are very active, and most people in Chinese community don't even know, but Florida has passed that 3 bill that hanging over our head, and I don't know what kind of dignity we have had. Now, all this bill has passed under the disguise of national security. Make no mistake, I'm really for strong national security, and I do worry about some of the practices from China, and that is different from targeting Chinese American communities. The very first bill that passed the parliamentary in Tallahassee included green card holders. 1 out of 5 Chinese is a green card holders. I think in Indian and other communities even higher, and that's where we are. Think about that and extend that on a national level. Think about how the Chinese community is going through. nationally, right here on Capitol Hill, last week, if you have read the news, last week we had a China week on the Hill. Speaker Johnson said the reason we're having China week is because the Biden administration has done too little, too late about China. And therefore, we want to show the American people that when Republican Party is in control, what we can do about China. And I don't think you know this number. Last week, how many bills has been pushed through on that China week? 25 of them. 25. Of course, not every bill of that is related directly to Chinese Americans. I'll give you an example. For example, there's a bill restricting biotech export control, further control on major Chinese biotech firms, right? I don't want to comment on that. There may be some merit or maybe not. I don't know, not expert. But I'm telling you one of the bill that passed with every single Republican vote and with 23 Democratic support and with 0 support from our AAPI member of Congress. And that is the bill to revive China Initiative. Now, for those of you who don't know much about China Initiative, it was introduced by Trump administration in 2018, and 3.5 years later, because it has not just Chinese or Asian community oppose that. Across the board, academic, university, technology sector, civil rights community, all against the China Initiative. In the end, when Biden come to Washington, D.C. for Biden administration, they really had enough, because every day somebody say, you know, this is not very good. So at the end of Biden administration, said, well, we had enough. Let's get rid of that. So that was gone, but now the Congress is to revive that. And it passed the House, and I don't think it's going to pass the Senate. And Biden administration said they are going to veto that bill if they pass the Senate. Okay, that's where the Chinese community are at a time when the global climate is out of control, at a time when we are worldwide, we are changing or reverting back from a peaceful, optimistic globalization period to a 19th century, to the return of the 19th century geopolitical dominated world order, and at a time when, honestly, no kidding, in 10 to 15, maybe 20 years, the world will be totally rearranged by the AI technology that needs the global cooperation of every single nation. We are putting China and the United States in a collision course. And that is very scary, and the Chinese American is bearing the brunt of that. And again, we need help from all. This is not just about Chinese community, not just about our Asian American community, it's really about the world. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Haipei. So I would like to take a moment to speak to you with regard to the Arab American community, West Asia, and some of the experiences that we have had and currently go through that I find day in and day out common experiences with the Indian community, with the Chinese community, the Vietnam community, all of our Asian American communities that they experience. So I am a third-generation Syrian American. My grandparents immigrated here at the turn of the 20th century. They are Christian, not Muslim, and I think many people conflate or don't understand that there are more than just the Muslim community that's a part of the Arab world generally and Arab Americans specifically. And the point that I want to make above and beyond just the religious affiliation is this, is that Edward Said, the great intellect from the—
Which is probably the best bond you can have. To know that we suffer together. the way we fight it is together. The moment we all understand that, we are unstoppable.
Okay. Oh, okay. It seems like it's under control. Okay. That's right. I guess we're getting more attention than we anticipated. So the great Edward Said, who laid some of the basic foundations of the intellectual description and of what colonialism is and what it does to communities and dehumanizes them, described himself as a Palestinian who was Christian, but also a part of the Muslim culture and Arab culture throughout the country, throughout the Middle East. So there's a relationship that people have with their culture that's beyond even religion that I want to point out and say why I have affiliated myself with the Muslim community because I identify with them as far as my culture is concerned, not the religion, number one. How did I come to reacquaint myself with my Arab American roots? I attended the Democratic National Convention in 2000, and at that event was introduced to the Arab American Institute, which is led by Dr. James Zogby. You may have heard of him, and you may have also heard of his brother, John Zogby, who runs a pollster operation that is considered first rate. I was greatly impressed and reacquainting myself with my culture and heritage from my grandparents' side of the family. And lo and behold, 1 year after that, 9/11 occurred. And that just blew everything apart. And so one of the first points I want to make, Haipei, with regard to the China initiative and what has happened since then and what is going on now, strikes me so strongly of a parallel, of a similar approach, a similar act, a similar kind of racial profiling that occurs that I consider beyond un-American, number one. Number two, an example of what happened as a consequence of 9/11 is the Patriot Act. And what did that do? That created a program that was run basically, although all over the country, but especially in New York City for almost 10 years, where the FBI and also some of the New York City Police Department specifically infiltrated mosques, social organizations. They acquired thousands, tens of thousands of files and identified individuals that they were looking for suspicious actions. Tens of millions of dollars was spent on it. Litigation was filed. And finally, in about 2011, the case was settled, and it exposed that not one prosecution, not one arrest occurred with regard to that activity. So when you talk about discrimination, that is, I think, a very strong example. And it is a lesson that I think our country should learn. I think it quite hasn't done that yet. And I think that's the challenges that we face going forward, is to convince our brothers and sisters, our fellow citizens in this country, that we are as much a part of it as they, and for them to deny our rights is a breach of their obligation to their community, to their society, and to our country. Now, I want to now transition and say that there are, at this very moment, another example of this kind of action and activity and attitude. What we're seeing today in Ohio and what is happening to the Haitian community being victimized and used to, as a tool, I suggest, for political purposes that has them being mischaracterized as illegal, mischaracterized as to what their community is and what contributions they're making to their community over the past 10 years as a result of the large immigration movement that occurred after the earthquakes there, and the United States government permitted them to come in, and they were gravitated to Springfield, Ohio, because there were jobs there and the community was rebounding, but they didn't have enough people there in order to fill the jobs that were being created. And now to have them be victimized improperly, unfairly, is history repeating itself. These are the challenges that we have going forward that we must confront, and I urge all of you to do the best you can and the most that you can, because one day it's them, one day it's those, and then the next day it's us. So, with that said, I'm going to prompt a couple questions here for our panelists to, I'm sorry, here's the most important thing. Please indulge me. I wanted to use as an example what happened earlier this week at a congressional hearing with regard to the US Senate. As I mentioned before, I have been affiliated with the Arab American Institute for 25 years. There was a Senate hearing that occurred on the 17th, earlier this week, whereby this happened. A woman by the name of Maya Berry, who was affiliated with the Arab American Institute as its executive director, someone who I've known for over 15 years, who is a former staff person here in the United States House for several years, for a congressman from Michigan, was scheduled to testify. And I want to read to you a statement that the National Arab American Bar Association wrote and just released yesterday. On September 17th, 2024, the Senate Judiciary Committee convened a hearing on, quote, stemming the tide of hate crimes in America, unquote. Instead of addressing the real and serious threat of hate crimes in our country, several senators took the opportunity to attack Maya Berry, executive director of the Arab American Institute, and the sole Arab and Muslim witness testifying at the hearing. Among numerous problematic statements, certain senators ignored the objective of the hearing while invoking the racist trope of Arab Americans are, quote, terrorists and, quote, agents of Hamas, repeatedly suggesting that Ms. Berry, a respected community leader, was a terrorist simply because of her status as an Arab American. After accusing Ms. Berry of supporting terrorism despite her plain and clear denials, multiple, I've seen the film, Senator John N. Kennedy of Louisiana concluded by stating that her head should be, quote, in a bag. Now, it's sad to hear that a United States senator brings that kind of attitude to the table as far as expressing themselves publicly in such a manner. It's just another example of the challenges we face. So I'll not belabor it any longer. So here are the questions now that I'd like to transition into. How do we, Asian Americans, ally ourselves with other communities in order to refute the discrimination that we all face? How do we do that? Raj, I'll let you start first.
I think, we were talking about Arab Americans and Muslim Americans. I think one really good historical example has been Japanese Americans. They were interned during World War II, and after 9/11, they recognized that the same thing could happen to Muslim Americans. And so I think by kind of having that flexibility to kind of take a step back from your own life experience, your own aesthetics, your own culture, and being able to see kind of the underlying principle at play and what type of treatment is being meted out, and then you can kind of work on the common solutions. So for example, all of the bills that we have talked about today, all of these things can be applied to different communities. Like, I may not be Chinese, but I do know what it is like to be assumed to be a nefarious foreign agent connected to some cabal simply for representing my own identity and not refuting it. And I also know, actually, and I also have worked at Chinese companies as well. So I also, but I think it's really being able to kind of see that, because a lot of times, even within our own community, when we go around and talk about things like that, they'll say, well, no, I'm not Muslim. I'm not this, I'm not that. Why would this apply to me? And it's like, no, here, we have, the way we operate here is we are all equal under the law. When you pass something, it applies to everyone. A lot of people in our community might come from countries where you are classified into different categories based on your ethnic or religious affiliation. You might be subject to different types of civil laws. Like in Indonesia, India, for example, you are legally classified, as a Hindu or a Muslim, right? And so when you come over here, it's really trying to explain, how the process of government works, what our system is like, and then, through that education and through kind of the interactions like these, this is where we can lay the groundwork to kind of respond to some of the challenges you were talking about.
Roger, very appreciate the fact that you brought this Japanese American, their reaction to their concentration experience. I think the Japanese American is very successful in assimilating into the American society, especially after the Second World War. To the extent that they even, among Asians, they even outmarriage the highest with non-Japanese. That extent of a radical will to prove, to change themselves. They are very sensitive to civil rights issues, and at this point, we got so much help, almost automatically sometimes from the Japanese American community, because they have gone through that, they know what we are going through. Think about this. I really thank you for bringing this up, because let's think the Asian American experience in America. I'm not even start to count the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. Let's start from the Second World War to now. In the space of about 60 years, 3 waves of, in a way, kind of anti-Asian political period in our country has settled. First, the Japanese Americans during the Second World War, and the second, in the 90s, the Muslim American community has gone through, and now the Chinese American have gone through. So in the space of 60 years, there's 3 waves. Who is next? I don't know, right? So just that's enough to say that. Thank you.
Actually, I think we hope that there is no next. But, just like he was just saying, I just want to reinitiate that. I think that, how are we gonna moving forward is, as I see working with different community, Vietnamese social services have kind of like, in 2005, there's a group of refugee. We started at refugee in Minnesota. And there's different group of refugee and immigrants that are coming to Minnesota. And they have shared with me that they are Asian, but nobody know who is a Karen, Karenese, Vietnamese, Chinese, Burmese, Bhutanese, Hmong, right? And sometimes then they bring back like the model Asian. You don't have any problem, But then, thinking that we are the model Asian, we still get discriminated. And so I think that what I really want to say moving forward is maybe this is one thing that I think all of our Asian have learned, that when we stand alone, like one chopsticks. Can anybody use anything with one chopsticks? Maybe something to hit someone. But if we have two chopsticks, three chopsticks, we can build mountains. And so building alliance, supporting each other. I hope that the conversation doesn't stop here. Support, whatever bills. I recall when I asked my parents growing up, I said, you know what? They call me boat people. Do you go to school by boat? And I thought at that time I was just really naive. I said, no. If you see the movie, maybe I go to school by helicopters. But I was scared. I was fear. And at that time, I didn't know that I was facing discrimination. But as growing up, there was a lot of story, and I'm sure that you all can relate it to the story that you have heard from Asian American or refugee or immigrants. So, I think that somehow we still have the challenges of explaining who we are, where we're from, our cultures, but we all deserve that right, that human right. Sometimes we have to remind someone, please, don't just be nice to us, be kind. But then we have to do something. We have to, and I, again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity, because as I trying to hold my tears back, because I have not seen a space where I see the togetherness, the hope, and also ready for determination. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Wei. Give me just one more moment here. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Japanese American community, and I know from 9/11, the first community that contacted Arab Americans and Muslims was the Japanese. They were there. Second of all, I want to say, yes, education is critical for our communities to understand what each other's experiences are, because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. That's why we are human and what we were about. Third, I want to say, not only should we consider allying with our Asian American communities themselves, but I also suggest that the Black community has, in my opinion, established a prototype of how to advocate and defend your community, given the hundreds of years that they've experienced it, and the continuous fight that they've had to employ up to this very day. And also the Latino community. It's, again, the same kinds of things that we're confronting. Lastly, before we start questions, very short comment, public engagement. How do we publicly engage in order to be effective for ourselves and with our allies? Public engagement.
So I'll be kind of quick about this. One of the many things we do is we put ourselves out there, and then we represent a tradition that is it is, to put it mildly, a very big tent. It is very unfamiliar, even alien to most people in America. So we spend a lot of time explaining it in terms that people here understand. And looking at kind of going past the jargon and just looking at the actual meaning and really it's a tough thing, but I think we've spent a lot of time doing this. We've created resources. We just speak the language, the local language, and that's not just English, but also just the references and the culture.
Well, public engagement for the Chinese community, how to improve that is very simple. Just look at our Indian brother and sister, how they are doing, and we just copycat that.
I think public engagement. I think that it has been really challenges to gap the barriers, the what I call equal access to resources, because there's challenges in public engagement. Like when I was in a corporate world, if we make a sale, we go out there and we present. And I will want an award if I, have a lot of things and an incentive. But in public engagement, when I work with community, especially with underserved population, and what I mean by underserved is that kind of like hard to reach because of the language barrier, because of they don't have transportation, they don't have it to either participate or even have the awareness of what's going on. Because their daily life, they would kind of like struggling with basic needs. And there's a lot of work that still need to do in public engagement. So what we need to do, I think, is have more of talks with our communities and share the information, share the knowledge. The knowledge can empower them to understand what we need to do, because discrimination, let's just go back to that topic, may not happen every day and never happen to everyone. And don't wait until it happened. Because what Jack was just saying, that during COVID, we were one of the agencies that out there in the front line helping, getting people vaccine and like that. But somehow in our community, there was a large dividedness of, oh, okay, this agency got this and that, and between Southeast Asian and African American. Somehow it's saying, that there was a dividedness between different communities. But we don't need to know what's the history or the reason behind it. I think that the best is to learn from the past, and also just kind of like don't give up hope and working together. Just kind of support one another in public, because public engagement still have a lot of barriers. And
Thank you very much, Sway. So we're going to go to questions, and very brief, please, Ramya. Okay, come here and then look at the camera if you might.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it very brief. First of all, thank you all so much. It's been an amazing panel. My comment is about Hindu phobia. I just want everyone in this room to know that there is something called Hindu phobia, which is nothing but Hindu hate. And the really upsetting thing is it's coming from other Asian communities. That's something that has to be acknowledged, because we are usually, we have a lot of things in common, but sometimes we work against each other. And, this is something that our organization has been fighting. We've been engaging with a lot of elected officials and also members of the community, because grassroots efforts are very important. But whenever you see this kind of example on social media or anywhere, please reach out to us, because a lot of times what gets published and all the reports you read are not really the true story. And we have to help each other out. And my request is that we work together and not against each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to have Raj just respond to that quickly. Thank you.
I think one of the things I want to emphasize is, it's really important to not assume that the situation in, say, a country like India it explains fully what the context is here in the United States. And the second thing I would say is, I think a lot of people, especially in the South Asian community, assume that their social status in India and wealth and privilege are eternal in the United States. And I think if you look at the experience of many diaspora populations, Indians, Chinese, throughout, whether it's the South Pacific, the Caribbean, Africa, anywhere, it can change really quickly. One day, people can be for you and you can have a seat at the table. The next day, you can be kicked out. And so I think we really need to make sure, we do not, HAF, our energies are not invested into discrediting the concept of hatred existing against another group. We are against all forms of hatred. And so even if you may not have experienced Hinduphobia or observed it yourself, can you really tell me with a straight face that it will never, ever happen in this country?
Thank you, Raj.
So I have a question for all three panelists, or anyone can answer. It's really, apologies. Directed. So for me, Bess, I'm first gen, and for first, second, third gen, a lot of the discrimination we face is kind of twofold. When we are within our own culture communities, we're not Asian enough, not Indian enough. And then when we are in areas that aren't Asian communities, we're not, we're too Asian, or we're not American enough. So it kind of comes, we straddle this hard line of what is our identity? How do we, we don't want to assimilate per se and let go of our culture, but we also, are born and raised here and we're Americans, and, we didn't have the same experiences as our parents or grandparents. And so what advice would you give to, I guess, generation Asians, first, second, third, apologies, who are facing discrimination both within the community, especially for their Americanness, and then outwardly in non-Asian communities for, quote, not being American enough?
Go.
Well, I think honestly, you just have to be yourself. And sometimes, if people want to tell me I'm not Indian enough or American enough or whatever enough, it's okay, who the hell are you? Did I ask for your opinion or not?
Copy that.
But I also like to add is that, the best thing is to, I think that when we feel lost of our identity, we may feel lost in the space, think all the way around. Take the best of the space. I preserve our culture, but also learning what is best and learn we needed to do to be who we are.
And one final question. I think Tommy had it. Apologies. But we'll take your question after. Thank you, Tommy.
One of the things, Jack, you mentioned earlier, we owe a lot to the African American community here and our Hispanic community. They fought a lot of years way before we started fighting, and things were a little easier for them to fight together because there's either the race or the ethnicity kind of bound them together. For us, it's a very different situation. But what are our plans for an organization that fought so much for African Americans like the NAACP, or for Hispanics like SOMOS, that is so influential? We don't have an organization like that. Unless there's political action and unless there's a national organization that binds all of us together. I don't know if that is AAUC yet, or it could be the beginning stages of that. Are we even thinking about that? But political action from a national level, with the network of lawyers and other activists, that takes us seriously. And one thing that you can see today is how many people came out to see us today. Not many. And even when you have representatives from government agencies coming out, what level of representatives are coming to meet us? Not high enough. But if it was SOMOS, if it was NAACP here in DC today, I can tell you it'll be the executives of FBI and DOJ that'll be meeting us. It is not just the director of the AAPI office that'll be meeting us. It'll be a cabinet level person. But we don't have that. And we need to organize, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this or if there is a movement. But
Prime
had an
Minister.
Indian Prime
How
Minister.
about Prime Minister?
Right? So that's what we need to do. We need to come out. We need to support people and let them grow so that they can now be our voices for us. I did it with Margaret Thatcher as a young kid, and I was able to put my voice forward, and I was able to get all the things my community wanted because I had a voice. So we need to just support each other. We can all complain about everything, right? But it's what we do about it that's more important. So let's focus on that. Let's get our more elected officials.
And
Piggyback on that. It's an important point the gentleman made. My name is Rajiv Gowda. And why we don't have? Why don't the congressman, why don't the senator come to these events? What is that holding them? What is holding is not them, us. Because we are very passive. We don't react to certain things, you know. I was the first elected guy in New York City, union vice president, school board president. I ran for state senate. See, when Rajiv Gowda or John Cho or someone runs, our community don't rally behind them. Don't speak up for them. Don't campaign for them. Don't give them money for them. So if you don't get your own people elected, you don't have voice there. That's what happened. I just came from Capitol building, speaking to some of the congressmen. So that's where the problem is. Not them, it's us. I've been fighting for the last 40 years. So what we have to do is, we have to unite. See, there is a saying, right? Quote unquote, united we stand tall, divided we fall. Don't worry who's going to be sitting here. Make sure somebody is sitting there. That's when they're going to support you, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. So please wake up, support, and demand them. When they come to campaign for you, when they come to ask for your money, what are you going to do for the community, not for me? Put the community ahead of everyone, then it's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to finish on that, and I'll hand over the microphone to Angela. Let me first of all say, you're absolutely right. We need to elect officials that are part of our community, number one. How do you do that? That's persistence. That's public engagement. You have to be in the game 24/7, 365, 5 years out, 10 years out. It takes a long time, but you have to make that investment. You must make that investment. And that's right. And, preparation is critical. Tommy, your vision of having an organization that advocates for all of us is something that we're trying to achieve, and I thank you for prompting us to reinvigorate our efforts. How it's going to happen in the future, I don't know, but it must happen, as you suggest. Angela, thank you so much to our panelists.
Yeah.
Yes, and
I just have one last thing. As I think that in our own community, civic participation is still very new. It's still new, and especially during the COVID of 5 years, we have refugee that's want to become a U.S. citizen that's ready to vote. And they have come to me and say, why are we voting? We already have a president. And so, we can only do as much at voting educations, but then bringing the community, working with our community, be where the community is, and and share with them, because as all my clients say, they just escape from things, and then now they are learning to be American, but they don't know where to start. And so back to your public engagement, there's still a lot of work, civic participations, and we can all do that in helping.
I want to say everyone has given very valuable input. There are two reasons why we do not get higher ranking officers and elected official. Partially, right now, everyone is campaigning for the general election. Secondly, money talks. every elected official is looking for money, whether it's for the party work that they are doing or they are campaigning for their own position. So most of us who are part of the diaspora, we don't know. I I remember when I was very new to this country, I was living in Los Angeles, and I was asked, would I run for an office? And I had no idea, but I ran, and I became successful because people do recognize your effort. You have to put an effort. You have to engage with the public. This was a general election, and I became the county officer, and I was elected as the secretary of the Democratic Party in Orange County, California, with no experience. It is hard work, engaging with people so that they know you exist. You have issues, you have voice, you are a hardworking and a tax-paying individual. So everyone has given very valuable input. Let's, like the gentleman said, support our own people, get them elected. When people ask you for money, contribute. They come. I knew several people, they should have been here, but they are doing fundraising. So one thing we learned that during election year, you don't have a summit like this and expect people to show up. That's one thing. Secondly, support your own and contribute, whether it's our own or not our own, but contribute. Your money talks. People listen to you because there are two things very important in politics: vote and money. If you provide those two issues, you can get elected anywhere, irrespective how you look and how you talk. So, my friend, everyone has given very valuable input. We'll keep all that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you very much, Jack, and the panel. It has been very interesting, and not just interesting, but very valuable discussions that we had up here. And once again, remember, as a nonprofit organization, we need to organize. Organize and then support the candidates that you believe will be your voice at the Capitol. And so it's really important for us to do that. But make sure that our people go out to vote too, because it does speak very loudly. So thank you very much, the panelists here. Amazing panel that we have. Yeah, it's our job as community leader to inform, our community of all the issues that, increasingly make it very challenging for our, community to be able to function. And, no matter how much contributions we made, if our voice is not heard, we're not going to be able to move very far. So the very next topic, I'm going to give you like a few minutes a break if you can stand. We're running late, so instead of getting a full break, we're going to get just a 5 minutes break. But the next session, I'm very, very excited for you to hear, because it's going to be a tool that we're presenting for you so that you know that you can use it and become even more active in the community. So be back in 5 minutes, and I'll show you what AAUC has been working on in order to help our community with a very important task. As we get more in technology, without some sort of tool, we will not have the right vehicle to move the community forward. And what we're about to present to you is one of the tools that you're going to find very, very resourceful. So be back. See you guys in 5 minutes. Thank you so much.